Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. Basketball season's back, but we still got showdowns. We still got main slates. Big overlap for the next few months. It's going to be a good time to be playing DFS, to be betting, all that good stuff. But as always, happy to have you guys with us. I know you wouldn't miss this show for the world on a Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Dave Loughran with me, Matt Gajewski, as always. I'll tell you what, man, I don't know how to feel about this Bucks logo in the back. Like, there's part of it that I think is cool, and then another part of it I kind of go, not sure where I land on that.
I love the Bucks logo. Your new setup with the logos behind you all lit up. I think it looks sick, man. And I love that old school pirate.
So do I. There's just something a little off about it, if you know what I mean. But I think I like it too. I love the creamsicle uniforms for sure. What are the best? I put mine out there the other day. I went full out chalk with the best uniforms: powder blue Chargers, Kelly green Eagles, and creamsicle Bucks. But people threw like the black and red Falcons jerseys, the old school Patriots jerseys. Someone even hit me with the Houston Oilers jerseys, which were so sick back in the day.
Yeah, I think my favorite two are the powder blue Chargers and this creamsicle Bucks. Those would be my top two.
Yeah, someone told me I went chalk with it, but I'm okay with that.
Well, they're the best for a reason.
Exactly. So sometimes chalk hits, you know?
Sometimes chalk hits, and with the jerseys, it does for sure.
How you feeling today, dude?
I'm feeling good, man. I know we've got a wide spread in tonight's game, but I like talking Bills, and I think the Bucks can keep this competitive. The Bills have had a lot of problems, man, so I'm expecting a pretty good game and a fun one for DFS. A lot of studs. A lot of cheap guys to talk about, so it should be a good one, hopefully without too many duplicates. How are you doing?
I'm good. That's kind of the question I had for you too, was like, when we're talking about a game like this, you look at a Bills team that has shot themselves in the foot continuously, it feels like, right? I mean, all the time. They're amazingly 4-3 on the season. They lost to the Jets. They lost to the Jags in London. They just lost to the Patriots. They have 2 division losses already. Man. They find ways. It's strange. They find ways to lose games, but take it a step further. This is a team right now that has injuries just piling up on defense. And, sometimes it's your year, sometimes it isn't. We've seen it all the time where a team comes into the year and they just manage to stay healthy. Other times they don't. You can't blame it on the training staff, this, that, nutrition, rehab, whatever. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Thus far, the Bills have suffered some really serious injuries to the secondary, to the defense in general. There's no way that helps them. The only advantage they might have is that Baker Mayfield is on the other side of this game, and that guy has stunk. Dude, Desmond Ridder tried to give them that game last week. I mean, he did everything he could to hand them that game last week, and they still lost outright at home.
Yeah, a lot of problems with both teams right now. Anytime you've got Baker Mayfield at the helm, you definitely don't feel good about it. Best case scenario for the Bucks, I think, is greasing their way to a playoff berth and getting axed on the wild card. So I'm not really sure what they're trying to do. Bills obviously have higher aspirations than that. But, man, you were right about this defense. So many key players injured. Trey White. They just lost Matt Milano last week, one of their best defenders, stud linebacker.
Yep.
You had Von Miller could only play limited snaps coming off that knee injury. I don't know how much he's going to play in this game. He went limited full practice. But it's weird, you see a guy come back from a knee injury and he can't make it through a whole game. This might be a recurring problem for him. And it's not just those players. There's injuries like across the board. Ed Oliver, he's been hurt coming into the game, questionable with a toe. I don't know if we see him. Just safeties have been banged up for this team too, man. I don't know. This might be a shootout team the rest of the way.
Well, it's funny you say that, because how else do they win?
I don't know. I don't think they're playing efficient football. They're not running Josh Allen anymore, which has been a huge problem. And I understand it. Josh Allen is the face of your franchise. You want him for the long haul. But we're at a point here where would you rather lose or would you rather risk your quarterback getting injured? And if you don't run him, the alternatives are just losing anyway. So I don't know what they're doing. We'll see if that changes. But yeah, it's been a little shaky for the Bills here. I'm a little hesitant seeing them as nearly a 10-point favorite.
Do you think the Bills can survive with this defense, knowing that So with the defense, but do you think they can survive with Gabe Davis as their wide receiver too? Like, do you think he's good enough to be the wide receiver too if they're going to win games and, go deep in the playoffs?
Yeah, they were a play away from the Super Bowl last year. They were essentially a wrong coin flip from playing for a title.
Yeah.
So they've done it before. I mean, it's not
last
ideal.
Game? Was that last season?
Yeah.
Who did they face who they faced the Chiefs? I'm trying to think what because 2 years ago they lost in the divisional round to the Chiefs, right? Or to the I don't remember who it was, but to the Chiefs or Bengals. I don't know, but it was the overtime game where Gabe Davis had 4 touchdowns, right? That was 2 years ago in the divisional round. What happened last year on the final play of the game?
And maybe I'm mixing up the years. Whatever the coin flip game is. I mean, Bills have been right there for the Super Bowl multiple times with Gabe Davis.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, did they play? I can't remember now. Did they play Mike, you would know. You're a Bills fan and an Eagles fan. Did they play the Chiefs in the conference championship last year?
No, I believe they lost.
It was the Bengals, right?
Yep. They lost.
Yeah.
I was at the game, actually. They lost to the Bengals. At home, they only had like 9 points.
Have the Bills made the conference championship under Allen?
No, they lost. They would have won. They lost with 14 seconds left in that where he never seen the ball again, and Mahomes had the ball twice, which is why they changed the overtime rule.
Yeah. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to the channel. It goes an extremely long way for us, and we're greatly appreciative for all of your support. Also, you want to check out all of our podcast exclusive content, stuff that only goes in the podcast platforms. We got some awesome stuff for the main slate every single week, whether it's the afternoon slate breakdown, bookmark that. We do it on Friday, or the week 7 review. We dive deep into the post-contest sims, take a look at single entry and 3-max approaches, what works, what doesn't, all of that stuff. If you want to check it out. Plus, this goes in the podcast form. Anything with any bit of a shelf life goes straight on the podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any archaic, podcast platform that you still use, we have it. So leave a rating or review for us there. That helps a lot. Also, Matt, with NBA back, we're doing 20% off every single NBA package, which means not just the brand new, incredible NBA Sims tool. I played the first night. All right. Now I have a young kid. I prefer these smaller slates where I don't have to stick around for late swap. Makes my life a lot easier. I had a nice night. Didn't play a ton of lineups. Only played 5 lineups, but I cashed all 5 of them. All I did was plug it into the Sims tool. That's it. Our own Steve Buzzard, the Colts, who is the mastermind in many senses behind the Sims tool. He won on DraftKings. Eddie Lai, the other guy behind the scenes, that does so much of our stuff from a projections to tools perspective. He chopped with Steve. They both took down 21K. Greg Ehrenberg chopped first place on FanDuel for 10K. All of this with the Sims tool. I was very happy to see that going into it. 20% off any NBA subscription that you want. It's only going for the first week of the season. 20% off. Whether you want to do the lineup generator for NBA, we got you. Whether you want to do, again, any pack, you click the link in the description or in chat, use the promo code TIPOFF. It should be preloaded for you, I would assume. But not a bad deal, Matt. Yeah, it is preloaded. Considering just the first day, we already had some massive winners rocking this Sims tool. It makes me feel pretty good about what we've got going on into the season.
Yeah, man. Anyone can be Batman. All you really need is the gadgets, and we have them for you. So
it's true.
Yeah, to be Batman, all you need is the gadgets. It's a hard sport for me to play, so I rely a lot on tools when I play it. I had to play on Tuesday myself. I said I had to play. I had a bunch of tickets. I did not shop first with Greg and Colts and all these guys, but using the same tools, hopefully it'll be me one of these days.
Yeah, me too, man. Also, it's not just the Sims tool. With these packages, you get 25 or 20% off, like the Sims package. You're getting ownership, player projections, boom bust tool, premium Discord. You're getting every single tool on the site. There's no add-ons necessary. You can generate 5,000 lineups in 60 seconds, run the Sims for them, use every other tool. You can customize it any way you want, ROI boost, you name it. Josh and I broke it down on the deeper dive on Tuesday. So yeah, check that out. It's going to be huge for me in football season as well, because I'm not going to have time to know every intricacy and in and out about the NBA, especially in the beginning of the season. It's going to take me a little while to get up to speed. Your Bucks are, by the way, link in the description and chat if you guys want a 20% off anything, including the lineup generator, much cheaper package, but it's the best entry-level tool that in the industry, hands down. Yeah, your Bucks got the Sixers tonight. You should smash. You should crush them.
Go on to the game, man.
I know. I
It's
hope
gonna
you
be
enjoy
sick.
it. I hope you lose, but I hope you enjoy it.
I completely get it as a Sixers fan.
Yeah. At this point, though, I'm just, I'm pretty apathetic towards the whole process. Team asked James Harden, just don't travel with us. Stay home, pal. Anyway, ready to get into some football for tonight?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Let's start with the Bucks. Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin both have questionable tags, but they both got full practices in yesterday. Do we have any reason to believe that they're not going to play?
I fully expect them to play. It's been all optimism around them. Seems like the limited practices were just precautionary.
Yeah. There's no way they don't play in this game. This is what I want to start with. We'll get to the run game in a second. We'll get to the backfield. This team's run game still just absolutely stinks, man. I mean, last year they had the highest pass play percentage in the league. Not a surprise. They could not run the football at all. This year they can't run the football. Rachaad White coming off a 13 for 34 game. Fortunately, he's involved enough in the passing game that it'll make things pretty interesting. But just given the injuries that we have to this Bills secondary, also you mentioned Milano out, Baker Mayfield, as underwhelming as this guy is, and he is very underwhelming, there might still be opportunities there. We saw Mac Jones post his best numbers of the season by a mile, actually looked like a competent and efficient quarterback, game-winning drive to win that at home for Bill Belichick's 300th win. As much as I hate it, guys like Mike Evans, who can just dominate when given the targets, will beat anybody one-on-one. Chris Godwin can get, rack up volume. There's still something there today.
There's absolutely something there, especially in the pass game, like what you highlighted about Mac Jones. I personally think Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Mac Jones. So seeing that success that Jones had should give us some confidence in Baker. I still would rather play a pass catcher over Baker. To your point, we have a condensed enough target share between Mike Evans and Chris Godwin where I think we could just look there. They both have identical target numbers, sitting just shy of 25% apiece. Air yards favor Evans. That's kind of how it's been throughout the career of both these players. Godwin just operates a little more near the line of scrimmage. Red zone, end zone targets, both these players are highly involved. So I think we can look both their directions. Godwin coming in a little cheaper piques my interest once we see that the opportunity hasn't been all that different. And personally, I think these players will be contrarian. The Bills are massive favorites. We have clear targets over there in Diggs and Josh Allen that people want to just click into lineups. This kind of reminds me of the Jordan Addison situation from Monday, where we have a team projected to be throwing the ball a lot from behind. If we just get the touchdowns going in one player's direction, you could very easily see one of these Buccaneers end up as the optimal captain.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, that's kind of the thing here when you're talking about this team is, one, does Buffalo's offense just come out strong out of the gate? They're coming off a brutal loss, really brutal loss in a divisional spot. Now they're at home, prime time, Thursday night football against the Bucs team that is just not particularly good. I thought earlier in the season, maybe they figured something out. Maybe they could hang, but those recent past two losses at home were brutal. Does Baker Mayfield, does this just turn into another scenario where Baker Mayfield is forced to throw, not just because they might be playing from behind, but because they have nothing going on the ground? They can't generate anything on the ground.
Yeah, their running attack has been really bad. And I think this does favor the pass. Even with the injuries, I still think the Buffalo defense is a little stronger up front. And Tampa Bay's strength is through the air too. So you would think that's a matchup they try to exploit. You said something earlier in the program. Rachaad White still active in the pass game. So he's not a player I just want to X out of my lineups. But there are concerns. The efficiency on the ground straight up hasn't been there. Keyshawn Vaughn has, a little sneaky, been taking more work week in, week out. Had 4 carries last week, 1 target himself, wasn't efficient either. But with such low efficiency from the run game altogether, we can't afford Rachaad White to cede any snaps to Keyshawn Vaughn. And the last thing is just alternatives. It's not like Rachaad White is a punt play or cheap. We do have to debate him versus other decent players on this slate. He's more expensive than Gabe Davis. He's more expensive than Chris Godwin. I would just straight up rather play those guys over Rachaad White. We'll see where ownership shakes out throughout the day, but unless he comes in as like a hyper contrarian play, I don't anticipate getting a lot of him.
what was the snap count looking like last week for this for the backfield?
Rashad White.
He's playing 75% plus like every single week.
Vaughn had 18 snaps. I think he needs like 100 though to be safe.
Yeah, you're probably right. Sean Tucker's just out of the offense at this point.
Yeah. For everyone that loved him, I mean, at the end of the day, he was a UDFA out of Syracuse. The guy barely weighs 200 pounds. I was excited too a little bit just because of how weak their backfield projected to be. Maybe you can beat out Chase Edmonds, but getting beat up by Keyshawn Vaughn's not positive either.
Yeah, it's not particularly encouraging. You're saying Rashad White would have to play 100% of snaps to feel real confident in him?
Yes.
You're probably
how many snaps do you think he needs to be like a good play?
He needs at least 90% of snaps.
Because even in this role, like 13 carries, 6 targets, I'd rather play Godwin.
Yeah, I think you're right. So all right. We're gonna wait till we get to Buffalo here. There's still some things to talk about with Buffalo because Buffalo's got some injuries on offense as well. But just from like a prioritization standpoint, if you were to prioritize the top guys from Tampa Bay right now, and of course we can lean on our top single game and showdown plays tool. You're going to get the optimal percentage. You're going to get top play percentage for that. You're going to have leverage scores on everything, ownership. It's going to across the board give you which guys are undervalued, underowned, overowned, all of that stuff, right? Just because someone might have negative leverage or looks overowned doesn't mean you don't play them. Just means there might be some other good spots out there as well. But from Godwin to Evans to Rashad White, once you get past that, understandably, Cade Otton is playing essentially every single snap in this offense. So we'll talk about him. But as far as the top 3 guys go, do you have a priority order here?
For me, it's going to be Godwin 1, Evans 2, then Rashad White. With Godwin ahead of Mike Evans, it just comes down to very similar volume and a big difference in price. You have to pay $10K for Mike Evans on DraftKings. You can get Chris Godwin for $7.8K. That might be the difference in Diggs versus getting a Gabe Davis, something like that. So I will be prioritizing Godwin slightly ahead of Evans, especially when you look at captain spot leverage in situations like that. White, I think, is pretty distant third for me. I don't see any reason he should be more expensive than Godwin.
As much as I love Mike Evans, I don't think there should be $2,200 separating him and Chris Godwin at all.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
That's a huge difference in price point.
They have the same targets on the year.
I was just going to say they're getting the same amount of opportunities. I would imagine, and I haven't looked at this yet, I can pull it up. My guess is that Mike Evans has seen significantly more red zone and goal and end zone targets. But
yeah, I have this on red zone usage. Chris Godwin 9, Evans 5, end zone targets. Mike Evans 6, Godwin 5.
Wow, it's way closer than I thought.
Yeah, I was shocked to see this morning too. You think Evans as this big red zone contested catch guy. Godwin's had a lot of usage.
I mean, last year, Mike Evans had to have had far more goal end zone targets than unless I'm completely misremembering this entire season. Felt like Mike Evans out targeted Godwin a lot in the end zone last year.
Last year, in the end zone specifically, it was 11 for Evans, 3 for Godwin.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. What about the red zone?
Red zone, Godwin 15, Evans 14.
Okay, right. Yeah, because Godwin, you're getting the ball out quick. Evans, when you're just throwing one-on-one in the end zone all the time.
Yeah, they throw a lot of back shoulder stuff to him. He's sick.
Different quarterback, though.
True.
Not sure there's much of a difference from Brady last year to Baker Mayfield this year, but it's still not great. If they were playing with a decent quarterback, these guys every single week on main slates would be like 8,500.
Yeah, it would be so. They'd be maybe not up there with the Eagles, but close.
Yeah.
Aside from Devontae Smith's season, but.
Yeah, it's been a rough one for Devontae Smith. You were down on him all offseason, though.
Yeah, it was mainly just, how does A.J. Brown finish top 10 and Devontae finish top 20 in that specific offense where they run a ton. Jalen Hurts has a huge, in the red zone, they don't pass the ball at all. So, I mean, it's just difficult for me to see them both in the top 20, but I did not see the drop off that Devonta Smith has had. That's been even far beyond what I expected.
I think it'll turn around a little bit, though, honestly.
Same.
A lot of bad drops. He's going to have some of those big games. Problem is paying for him has been the difficult part. Like, who wants to pay for Devonta Smith when you could just pay a little bit more for AJ Brown?
Yeah, and you can pay down for like Christian Kirk or something.
Yeah, right. Anyway, Cade Otton, he has an 11.7% target share through 6 games on the season. Evans and Godwin are both at 25%. Then it just falls off a cliff. Rachaad White, 11.7, Cade Otton, 11.7, Palmer, 9.1, Devin Tompkins, 11 or 9.1. Then there's nobody else. So this has been a really concentrated passing offense. 50% of the targets evenly split between Mike Evans and Chris Godwin this year. What do you do with Cade Otton? And by the way, just want to point this out. The reason I do think that Rachaad White, when we say and agree that he's a distant third, the reason I still think that he's entirely viable here is because I still think he's going to see, 5, 6. I think he could see 5, 6 targets again in this game, especially going up against a good Bills offense where they might be forced to throw the ball and can't run it. The problem is your chances of getting him in the end zone or efficient on the ground are few and far between. But what about Cade Otton?
I 100% agree with everything you just said. I like Cade Otton today, and it's not because of anything he's done. He just stands out as a value play. DraftKings did an awesome job with his price. $3K, even with an 11% target share, we'd need to consider Cade Otton just because he's on the field. He might see more opportunity than any of these receivers, and I think it's a little safer because the snaps he plays are safer. We don't have like some lock stone min value. We kind of have a bunch of guys that are in play, and I think the safest one at 3K is going to be Cade Otton. He's the avenue that gets you Allen, Diggs, your receiver of choice from Tampa Bay. So it's not even that I like him individually. It's like I like my constructions with him, and I think he does provide safety.
It feels gross. Trey Palmer, by the way, is 4,200. This is a guy on the season, and the guy on the season that has seen one game with a significant amount of targets, 3 or fewer in all of the others. What about Tompkins, though? Tompkins is $1,600. He has seen, and I'm just going raw targets here, 3, 4, 4, and 4 targets over his last 4 games. He found the end zone against the Saints. Nothing about him is going to jump off the page to you as, oh man, I really like this guy. But in the limited amount of snaps he's been playing, he has actually been getting opportunities. I would imagine his targets per route run is pretty high, given that he's played 14 and 19 snaps over the last 2 weeks. And then you have, like I said, Trey Palmer is the clear wide receiver 3, whereas Tompkins is just getting mixed in. But he's 1,600. He's getting 3, 4 targets a night.
He's one of those weird players that I kind of have trouble wrapping my mind around, where he doesn't play a ton, but when he's out there, it's in clear packages that are designed for him.
Right.
They clearly have a role for him. So I almost want to rank Devin Tompkins above Trey Palmer when we price adjust, maybe even straight up. I mean, then the savings you get with him, I think he's a pretty good play on this slate, especially if you can't get up to Cade Otton. I think Otton's a little safer just because you might see the bottom fall out on Tompkins. He plays like 6 snaps or something. Say they don't use that package this week. It's just not in the game plan, whatever it may be. But yeah, man, I mean, this volume on this few snaps, they clearly see something in the kid.
Well, let's look at this for a second. Palmer and Tompkins both have this exact same amount of targets on the season, despite playing nowhere near the same amount of snaps, which goes directly to the point that you just made. If you're talking red zone targets, Tompkins has 3 and Palmer has 2. They both have 1 inside the 5. They both have 1 goal line target. So maybe straight up he is the better play. Or you know what? I'd probably put him on completely even ground. If you were talking straight up, no salaries, you're getting almost a $3,000 discount on Tompkins today. The only difference is, do you think he ends up being a lot higher owned as a result?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't think projections are going to have these guys too far apart. So I would anticipate more ownership for sure. But I also don't think we're just going to get like funneled into Tompkins heavily. So I kind of like playing him.
Me too, man. I have no problem with it. What about Raheem Jarrett?
I think he's a dart. He's on the field a handful of snaps a game. I actually liked him in college quite a bit, but last game, 21 snaps, 10 routes. There was a little bit of Godwin injury in that game, so I think it's somewhat noisy. Large field, he's a guy you need to know, a dart you could potentially throw, but I don't have a lot of interest in him tonight. I'd rather just find the way to Tompkins.
Anybody else we haven't touched on for the Bucs?
Couple names that will play snaps. Payne Durham, he's a receiving tight end. He had 8 routes last game out of 52. Probably not getting there. And O'Keefe, he plays a lot, but he's massive, dude. He's like a 6 offensive lineman. I would not play O'Keefe under any circumstance.
Okay. And for what it's worth, we have our top single game and showdown plays tool updated. We tend to lean on this one pretty heavily for slates like this. Chris Godwin has the highest leverage score. Mike, you can throw that up on the screen. Chris Godwin has the highest leverage score of any Buck, 8%. Second highest leverage score on the slate. You'll see who it is, number 1 in just a second. Cade Otton, second highest leverage score for the Bucks. That makes sense for me. I'm trying to see where Tompkins is at that price.
He's negative.
But not by a ton. We don't have him getting a lot of ownership.
I'm surprised we have him as high as we do.
For what?
7% owned.
You think that's high? I think that's low.
Even with 7%, he comes in negatively leveraged. I mean, I don't know. There's volatility in his projection.
For sure. Where do we have Palmer? 12%?
So I think...
Go ahead.
I think I know why it's negative. We have Deontay Hardy projected for a pretty considerable role, and Trent Sherfield. Without Kincaid, a situation we'll talk about a little later. But I honestly think it might just be the fact that we have alternatives in this price range where that's why he might be coming in negatively leveraged.
Gotcha. All around similar, actually cheaper price points. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, should we talk about what's that?
No, I was going to say, to sum it up, I still like him.
Me too. I like him quite a bit if you're getting sub 10% utility ownership on him. Now, I'm not saying you can run out there and you captain Devin Tompkins, but look, how often are you getting the $1,600 guy that, granted, not an efficient offense, not a guy that's out there a ton, but as you mentioned, when he's out there, they're trying to get him the ball. 3-4 targets per game isn't all that bad, especially, what did I say, 4 red zone targets on the season or something? That's more than you get for most guys at that price point. So I like it. I also think you're just going to see most people go to Cade Otton at $3,000 instead. But it's not like Cade Otton's been super involved, right? As far as targets go on the season, what is he, pretty much in line with Devin Tompkins? Was he have a couple more targets than Tompkins on the entire year?
Yeah, it's really, you're just paying for the extra snaps.
Right. Yeah, you're right. How much is Otton used as a blocker?
Last game, we had Cade Otton on the field. He blocked on 26 of 52 dropbacks. He's used more as a run blocker. On just pure pass sets, he had 5 pass blocking reps, 44 routes. So he was out there a pretty good amount running routes.
Let's talk about the Bills. This is a really interesting one to take a look at because you got no Dawson Knox. Not just him, though. We'll get into the whole tight end position. By the way, many of you guys already know this. I'll throw it out there one more time. Matt and I talk about it all the time. And whenever we discuss betting, it's always like, all right, I'm betting this, but where are you getting the number? Like, is there a better number somewhere else? I know in college football as well, you're always going to see some big discrepancies, probably in that ridiculous, insane shit that you're betting in some of these teams that I've never heard of. You're probably going to see some big discrepancies where you want to pounce on that. If you're in Colorado or Virginia or New Jersey, Ohio, Iowa, and especially Kentucky, Bet365 is giving you $150 when you deposit 10 and bet 5. It's that simple. I could just stop there. I probably should. If you're in Kentucky, you deposit 10 and bet $1. This is going away, I think, next week, by the way. Deposit 10, bet $1, and get $365. So if you're Jersey, Iowa, Ohio, Virginia, or Colorado, that's bet 5, get 150. Kentucky, bet 1, get 365. Here's all you do. Link is in the description and in the chat. You click it, you sign up. It takes you 2 minutes to sign up. Okay. You could do it anywhere. 2 minutes. You're making $150 in 2 minutes. If you're Kentucky, make it 350 in 2 minutes. It's 365 in 2 minutes. Deposit 10, put it on whatever the hell you want. Bet $5 or $1 on whatever the hell you want. Put a parlay bet down. Who cares? If you lose, you still get the money. If you win, you still get the money. It doesn't matter. You could have a losing betting day and still come out in the black because of something like this. But Matt, as someone who bets frequently, particularly with you, I know on college football, it's not just getting free money from sites like this, but it's also the idea of knowing that you have multiple books at your disposal where you can shop the odds and not lose to the hook, or, bet a player prop or a touchdown prop where you're making significantly more money on a touchdown because you got it at plus 500 anytime TD and not plus 300. And now, you've almost doubled your win on that. So it goes further than just getting free money. A lot of it is making sure that you're always getting the best odds and having that opportunity to do so every time you bet.
Yeah, anyone who says that doesn't matter is just wrong, especially in like a sport, college football, the NFL. How many times do we see like missed field goals, missed PATs, weird stuff happens in games? You need every single number and it makes a difference. At the end of the day, these lines are pretty efficient. So if you're betting on thin margins already, why wouldn't you want a number that's a little better? Help your chance of winning. And I mean, with the free money thing, even if you're just increasing your unit size, how would you like to bet a little extra money on this spread rather than whatever it is you normally play? It's a no-brainer.
100%. Anyway, Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, Iowa, Virginia, 5 in the 150, Kentucky, 1 in the 365. Link in the description chat. Must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone who has a gambling problem, please call text 100 gambling. 18 plus for you Kentuckians. Anyway, let's talk about the Bills. I actually want to kick this one off with the tight end position for one real specific reason. Two, really. We have Dalton Kincaid with the highest leverage score on the slate. I do understand that for sure. 2, you have no Dawson Knox in this game. Also, Quentin Morris is out. What other tight ends are on the roster right now? Davidson's on the IR. What other tight ends are on the roster for this team?
I legitimately don't know who they're going to use. They haven't gotten snaps.
I honestly was hoping you could tell me that you could answer this for me.
I think the easy answer is this team probably morphs into a very heavy 11 personnel team with Kincaid just operating as your almost every down tight end. And I don't think it really matters that much who's playing behind him. And for some of these blocking situations, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we just see more like Reggie Gilliam snaps. Because Kincaid's not a strong blocker. What are the chances they just use like Gilliam as an H-back hybrid blocker? He plays a decent amount already. I think that's something they might do. Just trust him more than some tight end they sign off the street. But anyway, really interesting. And I think what it means for DFS is that we see a Kincaid just unleashed.
You kind of have to, right? It's funny, man. The target share on this team. Listen to this, Matt. This actually might be the craziest target share in the league when you're talking about just one guy at the top and then everybody else kind of in wasteland territory, including Gabe Davis, by the way. And for what it's worth, I know that they pass a lot. I know that. Let me see. What's their pass play percentage? Pass play percentage on the season. Oh, wow. Not as high as I thought. Where are they? They're 17th. Kind of neutral.
That's surprising.
Yeah, kind of neutral. I assumed it would be higher, to be completely honest with you. It is not. Last year it was, top 10. Anyway, target share for the Bills. This will set us up nicely. Stephon Diggs, 34%. Nobody else above 14. Gabe Davis, 14. Dalton Kincaid, 13. Dawson Knox out, 12%. James Cook, 9. Deontay Hardy, 7. Latavius Murray, 4. Khalil Shakir, 4. Trent Sherfield, 3.5. Man, this team sucks to figure out when you get past Stephon Diggs.
I think the easy answer is prioritize Diggs, and now we can prioritize Kincaid, who's coming off this huge target game. with Diggs and Allen, honestly, for that matter. It's not do we want to play them? I think it's where do we want to play them? Where can we get the best bang for our buck? As is the case with a lot of elite signal callers, when we have alternatives, we see Allen coming in positively leveraged in the flex, slightly negatively leveraged in the captain spot. I think the field just underrates how often receivers and pass catchers that are the recipients of the quarterback's production can outscore them. I mean, it's a PPR site, DraftKings, especially with Diggs soaking up 33% of the targets. Like, he can outscore Allen on any given night with how much volume goes his way. Diggs, he doesn't have as much positive leverage in the flex spot, and part of that because he's pretty neutral in captain. I think you could play him either direction, but I think I want to play Allen mainly in the flex. Diggs, I'll split between captain and flex. And then surprisingly, our tools seem to indicate not enough people are going to react to Kincaid. I tend to agree with this. They just don't have anybody else to throw the ball to. Gabe Davis is a ghost. Kincaid's coming off a monster target game. I think as a contrarian captain, he makes sense. He accesses a different build. You can probably fit an extra stud if you captain Kincaid. Man, a lot of reasons to like him both in the flex and the captain. I'll be playing him everywhere.
Yeah, it feels like there's nobody else that Josh Allen wants to throw to.
I get it, man. I wouldn't want to throw to Davis either.
I hear you. It's been rough. But okay, what's Gabe Davis's price point compared to these other guys?
Too high.
Yeah, I mean, he's close in price to Chris Godwin. And Chris Godwin has a 25% target share.
Yeah.
The only difference is one has a much better quarterback.
I would rather play Godwin straight up than Davis. I'd just rather find the salary. Yeah, Davis can burn you. He can catch a bomb or two, but for safety, I think it's no brainer. Chris Godwin. This is like the consideration becomes how big's your tournament? It's situations like that where maybe I'd consider Gabe Davis, but if you're just building something small, cash games for safety, I would prefer Godwin straight up. I would rather go down to play Kincaid straight up over Gabe Davis.
Stefon Diggs has a 19% optimal captain rate right now. Makes sense, right? 35% target share. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's so good, man. That's insane usage.
It's insane. 37% top play probability, Matt, for a wide receiver. We see that shit for like Lamar Jackson on Showdown slates, against bad teams that don't have any weapons. 37% top play probability, meaning highest overall score likelihood for Stefon Diggs. But the second highest optimal captain is Chris Godwin. Yeah, I know I'm bouncing around here a little bit, but I want to get into game theory and not just, who we like on each team, because that's what we try and do on this show. Josh Allen, second highest top play probability. So both of those guys at the top for Buffalo. Then it's Evans, Godwin, Mayfield. Falls off a cliff after that, though. Pull up our top single game and Showdown plays tool, Matt. And Mike, you can throw it on the screen. Look at the massive gap. And all of our NFL tools are in the description too, guys. Mike can throw it in chat if you guys wanted to get in on either the lineup generator for Showdown or whatever. We'll do some lineups with that later. But if you're wondering where this is coming from, it's from the site. Look at the huge gap from Diggs to Allen and then nobody else above 10%.
Yeah, man, it's wild, which it's kind of why I think you need to consider these guys. And I think you're kind of just building a 4-person lineup, honestly. Like, we want Diggs, we want Allen. It's just, where do we want them? What field size are we playing? Like, that's going to determine a lot. But, man, it's going to be massive Chris Godwin, Josh Allen night. If you're playing large field, that's where I start getting to the guys like Chris Godwin, the other players you mentioned. And I think the only thing that you might really be considering here is maybe I just play them both in flex, get a cheap captain, get an extra stud. So you're kind of just flipping the build, but you're still accessing all the studs just in a different way. I think that's one way you could be contrarian with them. But yeah, at the end of the day, the volume's just way too good for Diggs and Allen to fade.
We do have to spend a little bit of time on Gabe Davis. Apologies to you and everyone involved, but it has to be done. Agreed. He has mostly been a ghost, but he also is the type of guy that once in a while breaks out for one of those insane games. And you know what it ends up being? It'll be like 4 receptions on 6 targets, 2 50-plus yard touchdowns. So it's never, I won't say never. it's generally not going to be the big volume games. It's just going to be the huge splash plays out of Gabe Davis. We have him right now, 2.4% top play probability. He has slight positive leverage at the captain spot. I get that just because we know what he can do, not what he's likely to do, but what he can do. No real leverage overall, minus 0.3%. What do we do with, and also it would be probably a little bit different if you took a look at someone like Gabe Davis and you're like, yeah, you know what? Not a ton of targets, but massive red zone presence. That hasn't really been the case. He has 5 red zone targets on the season, only 2 inside the 10. Dawson Knox has more red zone targets. Diggs has 10. Knox has 6. What are you doing with Gabe Davis today? Are you getting to a decent amount of captain, or how do you play this?
I don't anticipate getting a lot of Gabe Davis unless he comes in really under-owned. Right now, that's not the case. Little bit under-owned in the captain, to your point. But I would rather just pay down. Shakir's 3,200. You can go down and play Deontay Hardy at 1K. There's a lot of cheap options for this team, and we haven't even gotten to the run game, which I definitely prefer over Gabe Davis. But to speak to just the players he'll be sharing the field with, I think we do see more Shakir and Deontay Hardy. The injury to Knox should allow for more 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets. Deontay Hardy is almost like Tompkins in Buffalo. He doesn't play as much as Khalil Shakir, but he's a guy they design plays for. He's a special teamer. He's sort of like a really, really poor man's Deebo Samuel, where he runs like 2 routes. It's like a slant or a screen, and they like getting the ball into his hands. That's reflected in the target numbers. Despite playing less than Khalil Shakir, he has more targets. So at 1K, I view him similarly to Tompkins. I would just rather save the 5K, like find my way to Diggs, play Hardy or Tompkins, and then just ignore this Gabe Davis range altogether. I think the 2v2s you can make between those builds where it's like 2 mid-price guys, one including Gabe Davis, or stars and scrubs, I prefer the stars and scrubs a lot more than the Gabe Davis builds.
So essentially, you're willing to just say, you know what, if Gabe Davis has one of those insane games, I'll just eat it.
Yes, I don't think I'm going to play a lot of lineups tonight because I'm going to the Bucs game. Probably somewhere between 1 and 3. I don't anticipate having him in any of them.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Let's dig a little bit further, and then I want to get to James Cook in this backfield because that's always fun. But can we talk a little bit about, you did just mention them, but with guys like Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, Khalil Shakir, he is playing, a third of the snaps every week, just has been very scarcely involved. Nothing downfield for him. Of these 3, because we know that it's Stephon Diggs, like up here, right? Then a drop off down to here for a Gabe Davis, and has been tight ends, but Kincaid's probably like here now. And then all the way down here for all of the other guys.
That's a great way to put it. I think price adjusted, I still prefer Hardy over Khalil Shakir. Again, snaps won't be there, but like Tompkins, he has a role when he's on the field. He has packages designed for him because he's a guy that can create with the ball in his hands. Khalil Shakir reminds me more of like your Trey Palmer type, where I don't exactly know what he's good at, but he plays a lot. Maybe he's a good blocker or something like that. I think both of them see an increase in role, but I think more of the targets go to Hardy, just the way he's used. Trent Sherfield, he's almost like the Raheem Jarrett parallel for this team. Sparsely used, distant third option among this group of rotational pass catchers. Don't have a lot of interest in Sherfield when we can just find slight upgrades in salary and get our way to Hardy or Tompkins.
All right. And yeah, Einstein asked, isn't AJ Brown close to Diggs and target share? Yeah, what I was saying isn't that there aren't high target share players out there that are similar. What I meant is that Buffalo has that dramatic drop after the top guy. Like Devontae Smith still has a 22+% target share. Goddard's still close to 20%. With Buffalo, it's Diggs and then literally everybody else. There's just nobody else that's been even close. Einstein also Lafayette, at the end of the show, if there's time, can you generate lineups? So lineup generator with the Bucs leading the game. Yeah, we could do that, Matt. That would be actually fun to see what those builds look like.
Yeah, I mean, after the upset we just saw with San Francisco and Minnesota, that would be prudent.
Yeah, it really would. That Addison touchdown, I thought it was intercepted, and then he just starts running.
So did I, dude. That was wild.
Right? Also, Brock Purdy put a little pressure on that fella and he starts not looking as good, huh?
I know is Darnold going to take his job this week?
No, you're joking, right?
I'm just kidding, man.
Mike, can you prepare to have the Sims tool and the lineup generator pulled up? We'll run them back to back towards the end of the show before we hand build a lineup here. I know people want to see that. All right. And did we hit 100 likes yet? 91. You know what, Matt? It might be basketball season, but we're still doing okay. Still doing okay on a 9 a.m. showdown show between the Bills and the Bucs.
It's a sick game, man. You guys are sickos in the best way. Appreciate being able to chop it up with you guys.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I actually forgot to retweet your tweet. Let me get that out there. Come chop it up, says Matt Gajewski on the Twitter. All right. So, James Cook. I think he's a pretty decent player. The usage is weird. He's actually gotten there some days on receiving volume. Last week, before that game, I go, yeah, he really hasn't been involved much as a receiver. So it sucks knowing that he's not your definitive goal line back. And then he goes off and rips off a 28-yard reception, a receiving touchdown. Still was only targeted 3 times in that game. That's the one thing I don't love about this, right? 9% target share on the season. He's been pretty, relatively efficient on the ground. 4.8 yards per attempt. It's nothing to sneeze at. But when you're talking about him and you're talking about Latavius Murray, do you worry that Murray continues to get goal line attempts and Allen continues to get goal line attempts, which just siphons off more scoring opportunities from Cook?
I definitely worry about that, especially at the price.
I know.
Of you playing, yeah.
It feels expensive. Like he's Singletary again.
It really does feel like that. A more explosive Singletary.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not as good, I'm not saying he isn't better. But remember, whenever Singletary would score, it would be from like the 25-yard line.
Yeah, and a lot of people, there was 2 weeks ago, this one play where he did come in on the goal line. I think they used Latavius Murray on like the previous 4 runs, and the guy could barely breathe. Yeah. He's so gassed. They had to use Cook. So I still think they prefer Murray as the goal line back for whatever reason. He is bigger, I guess. So yeah, you do run that risk. And then Allen, you mentioned threat at the goal line as well. So touchdown equity, not quite there. But still, I mean, maybe this is a leak in my game. I've been playing Cook every single week. Explosive component of this offense. So these risky guys, Gabe Davis, Cook, the expensive risky guys, I think I'd just rather play Cook for upside. Like what are the chances Cook ends up with a like productive game versus Gabe Davis? Cook at least has more ways to get there. Maybe he gets a rogue goal line carry. He catches passes himself. And I think this target share will probably normalize to some degree. I mean, the guy split his time between receiver and running back in college. He's an extremely good receiver. So I do think better days are ahead for him on third downs. But yeah, I would much rather make a bet on Cook than Gabe Davis if I'm playing one of the guys with a risky ceiling, risky floor.
Me too, man. And hey, for what it's worth, I'm not saying that he doesn't get goal line opportunities. I'm just saying he's not the definitive goal line back, right? So when you look at red zone rushing attempts this season, 12 for Murray, 12 for Cook. This is red zone, just inside the 20. I'll work my way through it. 12 for Murray, 12 for Cook, 11 for Josh Allen, 6 for Harris. Harris being out helps Cook, obviously, because he missed last game. He's on the IR. Inside the 10, 10 for Murray, 6 for Allen, 7 for Cook. All right, so it's still, Murray. Inside the 5, 7 for Murray, 4 for Allen, 3 for Cook. So there's a hierarchy, but it doesn't mean that Cook can't get them. It just means that Latavius Murray probably gets the first crack at some of these goal line carries. And if there's 5 goal line carries for running backs in the game, it might, or 6, let's say, it might be 4-2 Murray, or 3-1 if there's 4 of them. That's all I'm saying. But I still think the volume alone for Cook, the explosiveness and the fact that he can break off some big plays in the passing game, coupled with the fact that maybe he does get a goal line carry or 2 or breaks one from the red zone, makes him a good play. I'm with you. Would you captain him?
Yeah, I think you can. He's not going to be owned. That's what personally
at?
think captain ownership for Cook, we have him at 4%.
Wow.
Oh, wait, that's captain optimal. Well, yeah, he comes in actually lower than that. 6%, sorry. That was in the wrong column. 6% still not high.
Still not that high at all. No. Even 28% in utility ownership is not that high.
He's still negatively leveraged. I get it. But we're talking about ceilings specifically. So I think he does have that more than like a Gabe Davis.
Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is the guy that could give you 2 touchdowns in a game like this. He could also finish with 1.2 fantasy points, and you go, yeah, well, saw that one coming. He needs to score, right? He needs to score. He's touchdown dependent, but the opportunities could be there. He has had multiple targets, by the way, in 4 of 7 games this year. Not going to excite you, but that is still in play. Only scored twice. But like I said, if there are goal line opportunities, he's just another one of those guys. Here's the problem. Latavius Murray is priced like somebody who we know can get into the end zone. He is $4,800. He's not $2,000. He could score and have 20 total yards and still not be optimal at 4,800.
You laid it out well. Straight up, would rather play Cade Otton. I think I built a little bit this morning. I prefer my builds that have the Hardys, Tompkins, players like that, the stars and scrubs, if you will. And then I just like playing Kincaid straight up over him too. Not a big difference in price. So he's going to be a large field GPP play for me, just a sprinkling, but upside's clear. Just a matter of how much risk you're willing to take, because there certainly is a lot with Latavius Murray.
Anybody else in Buffalo you think is worth talking about before we get into some of these lineups? Feel free to go kickers and defense too.
I don't think anyone on the skill positions. I'm not really interested in the defenses tonight. If I was going to play one, it would probably be Tampa Bay, honestly. Just a cheaper price tag. In Buffalo, this defense has been downright atrocious recently. So honestly, I'd rather just save the money, play like the cheaper kicker, McLaughlin, play the cheaper defense. But it's not going to be a slate where I anticipate being really heavy on them, especially with the defenses being so owned lately, man. Like, what the heck?
I know. Yeah,
they've been optimal a ton. So I get why the field keeps playing them, but I keep getting buried by expensive and overowned defenses.
Kickers too, though. We've seen a lot of games recently where the kicker just comes out, has like 18 fantasy points.
Yeah, been really weird single game slates.
Do you think this game could shoot out?
Yeah, the Buffalo defense terrifies me. And this is a situation that's hard for books to react to. You've had multiple starters go down in consecutive weeks. This is guesswork for the books too. They get good information from like high value bettors and stuff. So I think they have their pulse on it, especially by kickoff. But man, projecting how much like Matt Milano is worth to the spread, like an injured Von Miller, limited Von Miller, these things are tricky. I could see Tampa Bay scoring for sure.
Absolutely. I could too. It's what, plus some of these primetime games have just been backwards. They've been upside down,
Yes. Last game.
Yeah, that's one of them. Let me add, Amateur HR. Hey, gents, Sims question. Got the full data package without Sims for NBA. I'm mostly a single entry, higher dollar player. Can you briefly chat about how Sims could be helpful for single entry versus max? Yeah, we have 2 Sims packages. One of them where the only difference is that you can only generate a certain amount of lineups, whereas the max package allows you to generate more, which is better for higher, more entries, like the big flagship contest on all of these sites. But no, I mean, look, I think Sims tools, even for single entry or 3 max, Matt, is always going to be super helpful because it's simulating the ROI for all of these lineups. It's doing the lineup filtering for you. It's simulating, it's generating contests, thousands of lineups. It's trying to replicate what it thinks will be. It's trying to replicate what should be in the field of your opponents, right? Like it's trying to replicate what the field is going to look like as far as lineups go. And then it's pulling the best, highest leverage spots with the highest simmed ROI and putting them up top. So I think, sure, if you're MMing, it's going to be massive. But I think for single entry and 3 max, a Sims tool is always going to help you for NBA and NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can control some of these variables for field size and stuff like you mentioned, which honestly I think is more important than it being single entry or three max. Just how big your tournament is going to be massively important. And then it's showing you what profitable lineups look like. So that's extremely useful knowledge in and of itself. Whether you use it exactly as is or decide to tweak it a little bit, you get a better idea of what you should be looking at for some of these tournaments.
Yeah. NBA has the late swap tool too. That's massive. You just go in there, you just put your lineups in, and it makes the highest simmed ROI late swaps. Also, post contest generator simulator. I use that every week for NFL and the podcast exclusive. Every damn week I use that thing with Ben. And we pull up what the winning lineups look like. I know Josh does it every day in NBA as well and other sports, just to see what the best players, what their simmed ROI was, what they're doing, what you can do differently. It's awesome. Anyway, let's take a look at this, Matt. So we ran it for 10,000 lineups, 25% payout to first place. So this should give us an idea. Now, I had Mike just do the contest generator and the sim already, so it doesn't waste any time. So we went in, we generated 10,000 lineups. We're going to go, large field here with 25% to first, simulated them. And now the highest simmed ROI lineup is, by the way, if you go on YouTube, Matt, and just maximize your screen, you'll be able to see it a lot better than if you're on this Zoom screen. Go to the top, Mike. Go to the top. So Stephon Diggs, Bills, Bucks, Godwin, Dalton Kincaid, and Josh Allen. How about that? 2 defenses, Diggs captain, Allen flex with Kincaid. So double stack there. No running backs. I actually love that lineup because if Baker Mayfield does struggle and he's just trying to pepper Chris Godwin, that is an interesting line. I hadn't even thought about that build yet.
Seems like it's playing for a really low scoring game environment, which was against both mine and your instinct. And probably a lot of the field sees Buffalo's recent struggles and anticipates this being a higher scoring game. So yeah, you're definitely working against that. There's no dupes for this lineup, which makes sense. I don't think it wins a lot, but a lot of times your ROI is not about how often you win. It's just, do we win, and what our chances are of winning when like a game environment plays out like this.
Yeah. And look, if you're somebody that is not, you're like, I don't care, I'll chop. I don't need to have the craziest lineup that doesn't chop. There's cash likelihood here. You can filter by cash probability or top 10%. You don't have to go, by win percent on those low ones. If you go back to lineups, just I want to look at the second one. Diggs, Bills, Bucks, Kincaid, Allen, Rashad White. All right, so a lot of that build. Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield. Let's for Einsteinium run the lineup generator, Mike, because I want to. He's in here with us all the time. I want to help him out here. And by the way, NBA strategy show coming up next with Josh, and I think Spags is with him until Adam gets back. So make sure to check that out. So lineup generator. By the way, links down there if you want to get that. That's, like I said, it's the best tool you're going to get for someone that might be low stakes or doesn't have a lot of time. It's awesome. So here's what we'll do. Go to DraftKings Showdown. We'll go DraftKings Showdown. You want to just do all lineups, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, all lineups. And Einsteinium asked if we could do something where we're boosting Tampa up and Buffalo down. So go to, where's Tampa? Do we not have it? There we go. Tampa up, Buffalo down. So this would be, you can adjust in the lineup generator for the way you think the game is going to go. You don't have to. You can also do it one way, save all your lineups, come back, do it another way, save those lineups and pick the best ones. So at the bottom, you'll see like the optimal projection. What are you doing? Ownership, how chalky or contrarian it is, whatever. Just go save 20 of them. It's fine. We'll see what our exposures look like. Diggs, Rashad White, Godwin, Mayfield, Evans, Cook are our highest exposed guys. Look at that, Matt. Josh Allen, 20. Wow. So low. That is crazy to me. Oh, but you know what? We're playing it. I forgot. We're playing it with the Tampa Bay Bucks ahead.
Yeah, that's where the Rashad White one really makes sense.
Big time.
Like Diggs, man, his volume's just so good. Doesn't matter what game environment. He's going to pop a ton. Interesting that Josh Allen comes in a little lower, playing from behind. But honestly, Tampa Bay scoring points, you'd expect their big four to do it. So it's kind of maybe just alternatives at some point.
Yeah. And then guys, you can discard the lineups you don't want, save the ones you like. We're already simming them thousands of times behind the scenes. For those of you that didn't know, we're only feeding you plus EV lineups. You can upload them straight to CSV and it's optimized for mobile. But okay. So you get running it with that. You're going to get a lot of Diggs, White, Godwin, and Mayfield. Not a lot of Josh Allen, but it makes sense. All right, let's quickly build a lineup here before we turn this one over to the NBA strategy show. I'll go first at captain. I'm gonna throw Diggs in there at captain, and then we can work past that. What do you got?
I'm gonna throw in Kincaid, second value.
All right, I'm gonna throw Allen in. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we have left after this. Not a ton.
I think we could still get one more stud. To save a little bit, I'll go Godwin.
I'll go Tompkins. This is playing like single entry here. We got
Tompkins completely fine. So 6,700 left. Weird range. We got kickers, defenses. I'll go out on a limb here and say Latavius Murray. Give us a little bit of leverage.
Okay. Appreciate you guys hanging out. As always, NBA strategy show coming up right now. Remember, Bet365, and if you want any of the tools, NBA's 20% off for the entirety of the week, any package, NFL, all of the stuff down there. If you ever have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. My DMs are open, and if you DM me, you know I'm happy to respond back, even if it takes me a while. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski. Shout out to Mike for producing this one. Good luck tonight, guys. Live before lock tonight, NBA and NFL. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.